GM to the community. We have with us Redstone. Redstone is a data ecosystem that delivers frequently updated, reliable, and diverse data for your dApp and smart contracts. In simple terms, it's a cross-chain data oracle. And today we have with us Marcin, who is the COO, which is the Chief Operations Officer. Good to have you here, Marcin. And we at Hashtag, we're building an under-collateralized lending solution for crypto retail, and through which you can get up to 3x loan on your collateral.
Permissionlessly and without credit scores. So, Marcin, good to have you here with us.
Thanks a lot for the invitation. I mean, I'm very pleased to join your community and chat today about data feeds on Starknet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a real pleasure to have you also. So we met in Starkware sessions in Tel Aviv, and I remember I attended your Stark Tank presentation, which was very cool, very informative. So I liked you. I like what you built, and I like the presentation also. Let's start. Let's begin with a quick introduction about you and also the rest of the team. Background, roles, engagement period in crypto, whatever you want.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So that was truly a pleasure to catch up in person in Tel Aviv for Starknet sessions. I mean, it was a great event, and also I believe has shown to everyone how strong the Starkware team and the Starknet community is, right? So, introducing myself, I'm Marcin. I'm COO at Redstone in blockchain space since 2017. So I'm not super OG, but I'm also not that fresh. I used to build like two smaller startups and work at Google Cloud as well. But blockchain crypto has always been, like, since I learned about it, a really interesting topic for me. So then end of 21, I decided to fully immerse into the field and co-found Redstone together with Jacob, who is our founder. And basically, Jacob is this giga brain. So sometimes you meet a person and you immediately realize how knowledgeable a person is. So that was my experience with Jacob. He's an engineer with 15 years of experience, used to be a smart contract auditor with Open Zeppelin. And in 2020, he was experimenting with alternative data delivery models, like, for example, Arweave. So he joined their incubation program and created Redstone with the promise of on-demand oracles that is way more cost-effective than the traditional push model, because basically you deliver data only when it's needed, so you diminish the waste and the cost of data that just sits on blockchain and is never used. And when it comes to the rest of the team, so right now I believe we are 12 people, and 80% of our team are developers, because look, we build an oracle, so technical excellence is something that we have to have in mind, right? So I'm COO, Jacob is the founder, Alex is our lead developer, Matt is our biz dev lead, that you can meet him on many of the conferences all around. Philip, who also helped organize this Twitter space, is our marketing lead. And we've got a couple of developers that make sure that whenever the integration happens, first, it's a robust product, and second, the experience of integration is not a seamless one. Yeah, so this is in a nutshell, I would say.
Great. If I may make a remark here, you said you are in the space since 2017. So we're kind of having parallel paths here. And in crypto years, believe me, that's not little. So very nice background update from the team, and also your founder seems pretty experienced. All right. So stepping to the project itself. When was the genesis point? When was the genesis timestamp for your project? And if you could distinguish some major milestones until now, we would be very interested to know them.
Sure. So, as mentioned, Jacob was the founder and the one that came up with the idea. So, in 2019, I believe, he participated a couple of hackathons. He won a few of them, like ETH London or ETH New York City, but he was never able to bring his hackathon idea to production product because of limitations of data feeds that at the time oracles had. So he was like, okay, if I'm a builder and I cannot build stuff because of limitations of oracles, let's build an oracle that has no these limitations, right? Like that's a builder approach, I
Hmm.
would say. And as I said, in 2020, he started with our with team experimenting on the Redstone design, and that's how it started. And as for the milestones, I would say we raised a pre-seed of over $500,000 in April 2021, and then we got quite a lot of traction and interest from projects. Therefore, in it was June 2022, we were already capable of raising our our seed round of $7 million. So we've got
Wow.
fairly good backers like Lemnis Cap was our lead. We have Blockchain Capital, Lattice, Coinbase Ventures, among others, as our backers. And one milestone I'm super proud of is the growth of our team without compromising on the quality. So I'm super confident to say like all the people that are in the team right now are the best. I mean, they're just good, dedicated, and work very hard in order to bring the most of the experience. And why I'm pointing that is because when you have a lot of work to do, there is this um, small idea in your head, okay, maybe I will hire someone quickly and that person will manage or not, but then you end up like recruiting not the best people, and then you cannot bring the excellence there. So I would say these are like a couple of milestones. Last but not least is February of this year 23, when we announced our Starknet connector, which was the very first non-EVM connector that we created, because we see like the ecosystem and community thriving over here.
We'll get back to that later a bit. These are some quite impressive numbers, and especially regarding your funding. That's a great. Definitely gives you the space and the luxury to onboard the best talent that you can find, and be very, very focused on the job and nothing else. So well done, guys. Let's deep dive a bit in the rest of the ecosystem, because there are other players in the segment. There are other oracles, and since we are focusing on Starknet, so we have a major one, which is Chainlink. Of course, it's well known, it's established, it's been years in crypto, a reliable and robust project. And also we have Pragma, which is a rebranding of Empiric Network, and they are uh, Starknet orientated. So, what are your major differences compared to these projects? If you want to refer to others, feel free to. And what are the novel or different solutions that your team is bringing to the table?
Really good question, right? Because you have a suite of oracles, you have to choose somehow. So, first of all,
Mhm.
I would say Chainlink has done an amazing job in 2019, 2020, 21, with creating like the DeFi together with other protocols. So they're a big player for sure, like the one that provided a lot of value. However, like what happens with big teams is that they get a little bit like old-fashioned, especially when they grow. Like right now, Chainlink, as far as I believe, is like over 200 people, which is already like a huge organization. So you cannot move that quickly anymore, right? And the Web3 space is super rapid. I mean, the innovation cycle is probably like 2 months or even shorter, right? Like we see like right now the progress of Cairo 1.0. We see other ZK ecosystems like popping out. We see also like new use cases that people bring on hackathons and on daily basis. So the main difference between us and Chainlink, I would say, are two. One is we are very hands-on and try to be quickly responding to the trends. So it's not like you come to us, you ask us something, and we tell you, okay, create a ticket. I'm going to review it in 3 months. It's rather like, okay, you tell us the use case, we analyze ourselves whether it's just a fad or a paradigm shift in the ecosystem, and then we adjust to that. And the second point is, as I mentioned, we are on-demand oracles. So we optimize for costs, because one of the biggest problems of oracles that everyone is aware of are the costs when you increase the frequency and number of data that you provide, right? So, for example, in comparison to Pragma, I just remembered the name Empiric still. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I would say the core difference again is this on-demand model, right? Because Pragma, as I understand it, maybe something has changed, but is they have quite similar approach to Chainlink. Their edge is rather to be like Starknet focused, which is really good to have like a more narrow, let's say, dedication. But I know they also look like into ZK Sync and Scroll and other ZKs. So let's maybe put it, okay, they are focused on ZKs in general. um, However, over then you are losing, I would say, a bit of information edge from other ecosystems, because we see Starknet as very with a huge potential. However, just looking on the facts, not as much as on other ecosystem is happening right now. So we can look on Arbitrum, Polygon, or mainnet Ethereum, like what are the trends over there, and be close and implement them to Starknet as they go, not like later when it's already implemented, right?
Mm-hmm. All right. So, if we are to recap a bit, you referred firstly to the speed of let's say customer support or availability from your team to answer and implement upon a feedback from a DeFi project. And also the second thing, can you break it down to LE5 language? So, what is the on-demand and non-on-demand approach? Can you tell us with an example?
Yeah, sure. So non-on-demand approach is to deliver data on chain regardlessly whether it's needed or not. Because okay, so let me break it down as for the 5 years old. So one
Mm-hmm.
misconception that people has is that they say a sentence: blockchains require data from outside world. That's not true.
Mm-hmm.
This is just a cost. I mean, if you push data on blockchain, it's a cost, and blockchain does not use that data at all, believe me. It's the smart
Mm-hmm.
contracts and dapps that require the data at a given moment when there is an action. So with Redstone, we look on the actions of users of dapps, and whenever these users like do an action, so what I mean by an action is create a long position, liquidate, I don't know, create a new loan or whatever like this that happens on chain. On the fly, when this action happens, we provide the data to the dApp so that the dApp can send the transaction of the user together with the data feed on chain. So we just kind of use the flow that has to happen anyway to diminish the costs. Whereas non-on-demand Oracle is saying, okay, I'm going to push data regardless in an interval or deviation on chain, and then you, dApp, can decide whether you use it or not, which is also beautiful. But then the costs are, I don't know, maybe like 50%, maybe 90%, depends on the ecosystem, higher, right? So the main
Mm-hmm.
advantage of the on demand is, as I said, like lower costs. And what it means by lower cost, it means that you can have more assets, so more interesting price feeds, for example ecosystem native tokens or the tokens that are not blue chip yet but are growing, and also higher frequency, because then if you update only when it's needed, then you can probably like create an interesting business model like revenue share or whatever, not like just pay the gas cost whenever it goes on chain.
Understood, understood. Yes. Just to update our audience and you, of course, that we have Zephyrin from our team here, from our blockchain team. So, Zephyrin, whenever you wish, you can take the stage and ask anything technical to Marcin. Okay. All right. Yes, that was pretty clear, Marcin. You distinguish yourselves quite clearly on that front. But you know, when and I will speak from our side. When you build a DeFi protocol, one of the major areas that you are looking for is to avoid single points of failure. And by that I mean in any stage of the project, in any partner, in any field, it's probably better not to rely on a single source, because if that single source for any reason experiences a problem, that can be a big problem for your DeFi protocol too. So on that front, I want to ask you, is it wise for a DeFi project to work with more than one oracles, so to avoid that single point of failure in case something happens?
Brilliant question, to be honest. And
Mm-hmm.
I would say
It's an honest one. It's an honest one.
okay. Yeah, I would say definitely, as long as the cost structure allows to do so, right? One
Mm-hmm.
misconception that the market has is that oracles are for free. And this is because Chainlink has created like subsidized for many years already, like the market, because like their token was quite valuable, so they had a lot of cash, so they didn't have to create like a sustainable business model, which is beautiful. Because imagine it's like being on a party and it's still before 2 a.m. You can party, you can drink, but then at one point you realize, okay, you need to go home, and the next day you might have hangover, right? So the party has to be over at one point. So then we sit down to the table and we look, okay, so what would be a fair price to pay for an oracle, right? As for any other service, you have to pay at one point. And then usually what dictates the price is the cost that the oracle has to take to operate, right? So if
Mm-hmm.
these costs are fairly low and kept with reasonable, let's say, terms, then the price for the dApp in the end can be also reasonable. Otherwise, it's not necessarily like viable and sustainable. And then again, whether to use many oracles or not. When everything is for free, use as many as you wish and as many as you can. If
Mm-hmm.
you're a startup with a runway and you have to create also like a sustainable, like company, then take into account again the trade-off between, for example, integrating two and the cost, integrating three and the cost. The rule of thumb, that's my personal take. This is not like something that the whole company holds. This is my personal take. Would be to probably implement one and then consider implementing like a fallback, because this is something that the industry has seen already, which would mean that you don't have enormous cost, but still you have a redundancy of at least two, right? Implementing like
Mm-hmm.
seven oracles would be beautiful, but then the costs are going to probably like eat your ass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, got it. But uh, safety wise, having more than one, let's say two, okay, let's have an example with two. Isn't it safer? Let's say that a project can withstand the cost.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it is for sure safer in the sense, especially if they differ from each other. Because imagine you have
Mm-hmm.
Oracle A and Oracle B that are similar to each other and you integrate them too. So, there is this concept of correlation. So, the probability that both of them would fail in the same, let's say, way is kind of high because they are
Uh-huh.
similar to each other. But if you have two oracles that take a different approach, then the risk of both of them failing in the same time, in the same way, is very low. So, I would say then it's very wise to, implement like two approaches.
Uh-huh. Fair enough, and very interesting point. Very interesting point. Okay, now I want us to discuss a bit around a question that is so obvious, and I mean, from our end, we have been asked to answer it again and again and again, but no, it's one of the most obvious questions. What intrigued you to join Starknet? What did you see in this ecosystem and this company and this product?
Very nice. Okay, so um, our founder Jacob eats and breathes EVM. So he is an EVM expert, and he has been in Ethereum ecosystem for a very long time. So Redstone is EVM compatible by design. So any EVM layer 1 or layer 2, we are compatible out of the box. And then, of course, we at one point noticed Starknet and Starkware that was getting more and more traction, that is keeping the promise and the ethos of Ethereum, but has another language like Cairo, and it's not EVM compatible. And we were like, okay, what should we do? So should we look into that, or it's not going to make it? And then we were like, okay, we have to understand what's the promise of taking another approach, and whether it's worth to join based on the ecosystem or not. And the two clear answers were: one, ZK is the future, so we definitely need to understand the tech better, and two, the ecosystem is crazy good. I mean, there are
Uh-huh.
many layer ones and environments which are full of bounty hunters and people who only look for grants, and unless you give them money they are not going to do anything. In Starknet we had a very different experience, that people are truly excited. They keep up the conversation. There are a lot of builders. They are very much focused on creating something new. So also, if you look into the ecosystem, you don't see right now, let's say, Uniswap, Aave, Curve, all the big names yet. Of course, at one point they will go, but there are a lot of teams that are building things from the scratch, which is very interesting, and it's good to see them innovating, because if you create something from the scratch, you can always pick up the goodies of the well proven models, and also implement something
Uh-huh.
new and enhance them. So I would say these were the reasons we really wanted to join the ecosystem.
Uh-huh. Great. And with your last sentence, you described beautifully and perfectly our R&D process. So we just did that exactly how you said. We studied the ecosystem, the competition. We saw the inefficiencies, and we made something which answers in those inefficiencies, but also we have gone above and beyond that, and proposing something quite novel. And since you are a dev, and a good dev, if I might say, and you mentioned the EVM frenzy that your founder has, I can't help myself but to ask you: does Starknet fall behind for not being EVM? Does it need to go EVM? What's your take on that?
Uh, I would say, like, for sure, it's not like Starknet must go EVM.
Uh-huh.
If it goes EVM, or at least like some um, environment that would show how EVM and Cairo differs, maybe that would be beneficial. But I would say nowadays in Web3 you have to have a differentiator, and to
Uh-huh.
the best to my knowledge, Starknet is the only, like, okay, maybe not the only, but the early non-EVM layer 2 on top of Ethereum. And it's a good bet, in my opinion. It's a good bet in a sense that you, as I say, it's a bet. It's not proven yet, but it's a bet that you can take the security and the promise of Ethereum, and you can change the execution environment, and then have something that is probably more efficient and unique in a sense. So I would say it's a interesting approach, and Starknet should keep up this kind of path. And whether to add the option for being EVM, yeah, for sure would be nice and good for adoption, because the biggest advantage, in my opinion, right now, the two biggest advantages of EVM are: first, developers just know it, even though Solidity is not ideal, people are just familiar with it. And then the second is the security. So we've seen a lot of hacks already, there have been a lot of audits of Solidity and so on. So it's not a new tech, so it's already like proven. So I would say that's my answer.
Uh-huh. Yes, it aligns quite quite much with the answer I got from two more guys in that I met in Tel Aviv, and they were also builders from projects, and they had the same view as you. So I think we have a pattern here, and I think you are correct. All right. So taking this point that you mentioned, Solidity and Cairo, as we all know in this ecosystem, that Starknet uses Cairo as language. So it's different from Solidity, and it's a new language, and this comes with some challenges. So how challenging was it for you to adapt?
Yeah, so myself, I'm not a developer. I try to be as technical as possible. And the whole credits for adapting Redstone flow to Cairo is to Wukash, my good friend who's also in our team. And I know it was a challenge for him. I mean, I'm just going to be honest. Like he mentioned, that it's not like straightforward to create something in Cairo, um, because first of all, it's a new language, right? So for
Uh-huh.
non-technical people, you can imagine. Okay, we're speaking in English right now, and someone asks us to switch into German. Uh,
Hmm.
okay, maybe
Exactly.
we are going to get a few words like, I don't know, computer, sorry, or the ones that are the same all across languages. But then when you want to create
Hmm.
a sentence, you have to understand the grammar, you have to understand like what are the meaning of the words, then maybe you have idioms and so on. So it's just not easy when you're entering a new ecosystem. So actually, like, he wrote a few areas that he had some problems. I can mention them. So for example, it's not easy to use tail recursion, like that comes with a challenge together with memory pointers. So you have to, whenever you keep on adapting the infrastructure, you have to take them in mind. And not a smaller challenge was watch out not to do memory holes in the whole implementation. So I suppose developers can tell more about specifics over there, but all in all, he made it in a fairly short period of time. So I can imagine for him as a developer that wasn't easy, but he managed. So it also shows that even though someone completely new to Cairo comes and might struggle, in the end, everything is possible. You just require a bit more time probably to get used to that. And then,
Hmm.
as we saw, like Cairo 1.0 is rolling out, so we need to still double check the differences, like with the previous version and Cairo 1.0. But from what Lucas like did a quick overview, um, it differs quite significantly, and it's good and bad. Bad because you probably have to rewrite your logic quite significantly, and you have to learn a new language. Good because usually with quite a lot of changes comes bigger optimization and like more interesting concepts. So there's always like the sword has two edges.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that later on, but you almost answered the half of it, but we'll get to that. So, again, referring to Cairo, are there any advantages or disadvantages that you have seen it will bring to the efficiency of your operations as an oracle?
Yeah, so being 100% honest, I don't want to tell much at that point because Cairo 1.0 is a game changer. So it's as we are talking, it's being rolled out and people experiment with it because it's very fresh. So we need to investigate ourselves to being able to fully answer. But one of the things that we've seen that is nice is that reading data, as far as I believe, is for free. So it's for sure like the benefit once the data is already stored, then reading is not a problem, which is also super cool for our new model. I'm going to tell you more about it later, but we are
Uh-huh.
just right now, this is alpha as Redstone, rolling out a Redstone Classic Oracle model, which is an interface of Chainlink. So it's very familiar for developers, but still brings a lot of benefits of our on-demand approach, where um, you can specify the time interval of the updates, because some protocols would prefer the price to update every 10 minutes, some would prefer every, I don't know, an hour, every 10 seconds, whatever. So we give you the customizability to decide what is the interval. And then the second plus is you can specify the deviation. So some protocols, if they do leverage and perps, probably want the deviation to be as small as possible, and they can even pay more in gas just in order to keep up the smallest difference. Whereas when you have, like, I don't know, regular lending or something like this, you can maybe accept, let's say, a percentage or 2%. So we leave it up to you, but I can tell more later on. To sum up, like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
to sum up to your question, um, yeah, we have to wait for Kai 1.0. Sorry, I'm just going to tell that.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, sure, definitely. But taking that as a point, my general question regarding that is, how is an Oracle provider affected depending on the blockchain it supports? So, because you support a lot of blockchains, okay, I guess there are some differences, okay, in your operation when you change from a blockchain to another blockchain. So, how does the blockchain affect an Oracle in which areas?
Yeah, like it's not 2019 anymore when we have only Ethereum mainnet. We live in the omni chain and omni layer 2 world. So it's a very up to point question. Uh, so the ecosystem influences Oracle depending on the Oracle model. So when you do the push Oracle, so the on-chain model data, then it matters a lot because you have to look on the gas cost structure of storage and read. So basically how it works for the contracts. You also have to look on the timestamps, what packages are supported, as well as one of the things that people keep forgetting is the block time. So, for example, on Ethereum, there is no use in updating price feed every 10 seconds. It's just the quickest you should probably go is the block time, right? Because if you update it even more frequently, it doesn't matter that much for the protocol. Whereas on other
Mm-hmm.
ecosystems, you can have sub-second like block time. So then it can be sometimes challenging or beneficial for Oracle depending on the design. But one of the things we've discussed already is the language. So if it's Solidity, then I suppose it's fairly the same all across EVMs. If it's not a Solidity, then you have to adjust. And um, maybe one more thing is on the ecosystem side, what is the purpose of the blockchain? Because some blockchains right now or layer twos take specific use case to be designed for. So let's say gaming, sports betting, DeFi, or maybe even a subsection of DeFi, like, I don't know, only DEXs or whatever. So these are the tastes and colors that oracles should take in mind when deploying and designing.
Hmm. So if we were to sum up, uh, the most important points are the cost and the transaction speed. So depending on what the blockchain has regarding cost and speed, TPS, these also affect your Oracle data feeds, correct?
Yes, these two plus the language, right? So whether it's,
Plus the language. All right.
yeah, that these three I would say.
Uh-huh. Okay. So this is the point I was hoping to get into Regenesis, but although you answered half of it, maybe we can say again, because Regenesis is the point that will bring kind of a more stability in Starknet in Cairo. We will have Cairo 1.0, so we will have a robust, solid point with not so frequent updates later on, and we all hope it will be a great update. So we would benefit and harness Starknet's power. So, how is your team preparing for Regenesis? And did you or are you planning any changes required for implementation on Redstone's code?
Yeah, okay, thanks. One thing that we hope is going to be easier is getting test tokens. So
Definitely.
yeah, like the problems with faucet, but I suppose it's also the
Hmm.
problem of regular Ethereum and girly and getting the test tokens, because you need to test before you go to mainnet, right? So when you have
Uh-huh.
problem getting like the only currency you can pay for gas, it's challenging. So um, this is one we hope is going to be addressed like fairly soon. Other than that, yeah, like we already started contacting partners for an audit so that we can like schedule it accordingly to our development work, because now we have to get to know Cairo 1.0 better. We need to see how developers approach it, what are the early bugs, because probably like with every new system you are going to find some that are not so obvious. And then we want to make sure that the logic of the two models, so the Redstone Core, so this is this on-demand model, and Redstone Classic, this is this chainlink like adapter, both work on Starknet. And then
Uh-huh.
just implement with projects and make the ecosystem thrive, right? I mean, we all want to
Uh-huh.
see the TVL of Starknet growing and the usage just skyrocket. So we are, looking forward to that.
Mhm. And I want to ask you, since you mentioned it, about audits. Did you find a good Cairo-orientated auditor?
I'm not sure if it's like a public information. I got like a
Ah, okay. You will DM me after. Okay, okay. I can push you on that
yeah. I'm going.
because
If you send me your private keys, I'm going to send you like the list of Cairo auditors.
okay, 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 okay. We can elaborate on that later. So at this point, I want to ask Ayushman, our community intern, to continue and say one or two questions too. So Ayush.
Right. So, Marcin, I see that you recently visited Eid Dubai, and I hope you had a great time there. All right. And so now that we've talked about audits, right, and especially you mentioned in like the first half of the call of the Twitter Spaces that we've had seen a lot of exploits due to oracles, right? So I wanted to ask you, you know, what are what are your views on having an exploit resistant oracle, or can we even have one? Because we've seen Solana based DeFi apps like Solend and Mango markets who have like cumulatively lost over $100 million respectively. So I would really love to have your views on this one.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the question. So it's like asking, like in the real world, can we find a cure to every illness, which unfortunately in short term is probably not possible, right? To create an oracle that is failure resistant, like fully. So whenever you build an oracle, you consider yourself it's failure resistant, and you hope there is no hole that you made. But of course, with all the updates and the ecosystem progressing, we are all just humans, and there is like a space for error. So what you can do is to keep good practices, audit your code frequently, and also let professionals design the core parts of your architecture, I would say. So, oracles have been like one of the key components in the Web3 that got hacked over the past years, and we cannot change that. What we can change is having the lesson of the hacks that happened in the past and not allowing to repeat them, and also from time to time close the Telegram, close Twitter, and close all the other sources, close eyes and think, okay, if I were a hacker, if I wanted to attack, what would be the vectors I would look for, or what would be areas I would search a hole in, right? So it's a kind of like a thief and a cop game, but we just have to keep on playing with it. Mm, Having said that, yeah, I don't think something like exploit resistant Oracle is going to ever be present, but there are a couple of indicators you can look for. So first, as I said, like knowledgeable team that is has track of record of like audits or like building web3 products, so they have been seen that and experienced a lot. Second is shipping consciously, so like shipping when they are ready and when something is truly proven, and also like shipping first, like like to test environment, discussing with products, getting bug bounties and so on. Yes, I would say these are like the main practices oracles should keep up.
Right. Yeah, that's quite informative, and it's always fun to just see where you can get exploited from before like just having a hacker mindset and relying on quality assurance inside before maybe testing out, like pushing it out on production. Yeah, so that's something which we also do, and at hashtag, and we've also have had our bug bounty programs, and it does help auditors to at least earn something out of with the code audits. Right, so let's move on to our next question, which is a very recent, I'd say, phenomena which happened, and which is the USDC depegging. Right, it's when we saw a sharp fall in USDC prices. It was depegged. It was not equivalent to $1. And my question to you is, how did you cope up with that and ensure the safeguarding of the protocols you are working with?
Yeah, very recent. So maybe also like a bit of taste why it depegged. So the reason for that was the failure of CFI, right? So like a bank in the US, which is called Silicon Valley Bank, announced that they are
Right.
insolvent, and they hold a huge position of USDC. So the market got very afraid of what can happen. And on Tuesday, I was participating analysis of the market situation from Kaiko, one of our partners, and they did excellent job like doing so. So I recommend signing up for their newsletter for like market analysis, because it was very in depth. To make it short, the main reason for this to depeg was USDC was mainly used among DeFi protocols. So it's like a kind of like golden standard stablecoin for any DeFi activities. Even when you are raising a round right now as a Web3 startup, before the depeg, like majority of the transactions would happen in USDC, right? But on the other hand, on CeFi, sorry, on Texas, so centralized exchanges, the USDT was the predominant stablecoin. So if you wanted to liquidate your USDC into like a fiat, there was not much liquidity on Texas, and Texas allow you to do so. So that was one of the fundamental problem why it happened. Okay, and to the question, so we were monitoring what was happening on the market all the time. Like we had not a single second hiccup when it comes to monitoring the market. So if you go to app.redstone.finance and you click USDC, you can see like how it behaved basically, and that we were capable of providing an accurate price over the whole DPEG period. And in my opinion, it's also important, like an important lesson for DeFi protocols, not to like write hard code. Sorry, that's the word. Hard code 1-to-1 USDC $1 value, because it's not always true, right? So I seen on Twitter that Compound did that. So in their system, one USDC was always worth $1, which apparently wasn't true for some period of time. So it's important to also use Oracle for the USDC price. Majority of time it's going to be the same, but Oracles is this really peculiar use case when it doesn't matter that 99.9% everything goes right. It's important that the 0.1% moment when the market is super turbulent, your Oracle is going to hold and your Oracle is going to do the job. So we are happy that all our partners were satisfied with how our Oracle behaved, and we didn't have any problem with it.
Right. That sounds great because I was checking out the news and there were many people who actually, hard coded USDC values to $1, and many didn't rely on good oracles, which was up to date with real time. And it's good to hear that because there's really fear in the market. Although right now BTC and ETH is pumping up. Anyways, that's for a different reason altogether. And right. So coming to our last questions, is there any major updates or news for Redstone this year that you'd like to share? Maybe that you're looking for increase in the team number, or maybe there's something planned, maybe a fundraise down the line. Do share it with our audience.
Whoa, so there is quite a lot of alpha, but not all of that I can share. However, looking that we gathered a huge audience over here, I'm going to share a few. So
Sure.
one that is very immediate and is going to happen next week is we are going to announce our two additional models. So as I said, we have this Redstone Core, like on-demand model, but looking into the needs of Web3 products, we are going to announce Redstone Classic, which allows you to take the Chainlink interface but still benefit from our design. And we are going to bring also the third model, which is called Redstone X, and it's based on GMX design. And with that model, we protect users and apps from front running, because long story short, we utilize a model where we record transaction in one block and execute with the next one within a short period of time. Hence, there is no time for front running, and it's a good use case for perpetuals and options. But more on that, we are going to announce next week. Another, oh yeah, Aris?
That's very cool. I just wanted to interrupt you to say that's very cool and very important. Please continue.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, as I said, like we work with developers hands-on, so it's not like we lock ourselves in garage for half a year and then we come back with a product that no one wants to use. We ask people. So in January, we're talking intensively with GMX and other perpetual protocols, and Redstone X is the result of like hours of talking together and understanding how perpetuals and options work. So this is going to be a huge one. Another big one is okay, I cannot reveal that one, so maybe another one. So we opened an office in Warsaw. So when everyone is working remotely and in a distributed fashion, we believe there is a huge value in from time to time meeting for a lunch or coffee or a beer and talking over a hard problem, right, in person. So we opened an office in Warsaw where we can crack these kind of hard nuts, and we are very happy about it. And any partner that we have and visit Warsaw, they are very much welcome to swing by for a coffee or whatever else. So your guys from hashtag of course invited. And any other alpha, yeah, we are going to be very much present on all of the conferences that are upcoming. So Ethereum Zurich, most likely Block Split, ETH Belgrade. So these are the ones that we are going to cover. And when there's going to be a next event of Starknet in Tel Aviv, we are more than happy, to also fly over.
All right, awesome, great news, Marcin. Unfortunately, time goes by pretty fast, especially when an event is interesting. I guess can you please do a quick recap before Twitter kills this event due to the time? So please take the stage again.
Sure thing. So, for our community members who just came or maybe missed out a couple of stuff, here's a quick 2-3 minute summary. So, right. So Redstone started off in 2020, and it started off, with the Arweave team on exploring out and creating an oracle. And by the way, it was the birth of Redstone was because of the limitations of oracles at that point of time. So yeah, they just built it up, and they've raised a pre-seed of $500,000 and a seed round of $7 million, right? And one thing Marcin is proud of is the growth of the team. And we moved on to the next one, which was the difference between Chainlink and Pragma, which is previous empiric network. And one of the fastest things which came to Marcin's mind was that they are a relatively very small team, because of which they have a lot of hands-on and quickly respond to trends. And also the fact that they provide on-demand oracles with optimized costs. And then he explained us the difference between on-demand and not on-demand oracles. Right. So, with respect to some views, we got to know that having more than one oracle at the same time would definitely help you out if you can withstand the cost. And the challenges with learning Cairo was that it was not straightforward as told by the Redstone devs, right? Especially when creating contracts in Cairo, because it's a relatively new language, and that too Cairo 1.0 is gonna be a game changer, and that they're still experimenting and learning Cairo 1.0, right? And with respect to non-exploitable resistant oracles, it won't be possible anytime soon, especially because it's technology and technology has bugs and human error, right? But what you can do is two things: is that you should audit your code often, and second, let professionals design your code architecture, especially auditors who have had years of experience in auditing oracles. And then we also came to understand about the SVB and the USDC debugging, and about how Redstone took care properly of their oracles, and made sure that the protocols which use Redstone would work seamlessly. And a couple of alphas which Marcin shared is, first, that they're having additional models, two additional models besides Redstone Core. Is that there's going to be Redstone Classic, which will have the Chainlink interface, but the Redstone design behind the scenes, and Redstone X, which is based on the GMX design. Now that would protect apps and users from front running. And also that we, like the hashtag team is invited for a coffee at the Warsaw office, which they recently opened. And also make sure that if you're attending conferences, the restaurant team is going to be there. So do wave a hi at them and grab a coffee. Yeah, that is pretty much it. And Last but not the least, we at Hashtag are building a permissionless under collateralized lending solution without any credit scores, and you can get up to 3:1 collateral loan to collateral ratio. Right.
So, guys, don't skip following Redstone at redstone.finance and also their Twitter at redstone /DeFi and also hashtag. Our website is hashtag.finance and our Twitter is at 0x hashtag. Marcin, was a real pleasure to host you here, to have you here, and really eye-opening in many areas to deep dive a bit in the Oracle scene and also in the Starknet Oracle scene. So thank you for your time, and I hope it was nice for you too to be here, and we will sure continue our elaboration and our friendship. I continue. I consider you a friend, and also between our projects, we can elaborate further and meet ourselves together in some other event. So thank you again.
Yeah, thanks a lot. That was a true pleasure. Like, you have an amazing community over here. Thank you all for listening, and we're just looking forward to working together with Hashtag and having like other opportunities. So thanks a lot, Aris. Thanks a lot, the whole team.
Thank you so much, Marcin. It was a real pleasure.
Bye bye, everyone. Until the next time, have a good day.
Bye.